Hey everyone, ready for some seriously cool language learning hacks?
Language learning hacks. I like that.
Well, get this. We're diving deep into this podcast episode. All about becoming fluent. The lazy way.
It's a lazy way, huh? Sign me up.
Right. Forget those old boring textbooks. This is about making English a natural part of your life, effortlessly.
Effortlessly. I love that idea. So much of language learning feels like heavy lifting.
I know. So first up, think about your phone, all those apps, all those menus.
It is on it?
Exactly. What if all that became like a secret English tutor?
Whoa, okay, I'm intrigued.
Switch the language settings to English, boom, instant immersion.
Oh, that's smart. It's like you're already spending all that time scrolling and tapping.
Right. And your brain's picking up words and phrases without you even realizing it.
It's like a little language hack right under our noses.
And speaking of hacks, social media.
Oh, don't get me started. I can spend hours on there.
I hear you. But instead of, following those same old accounts.
You mean like branch out a little?
Yeah. Sprinkle in some English-speaking creators, comedians, artists, whatever you're into.
Okay. Yeah, that actually sounds fun. It's like you're learning, but it doesn't feel like studying.
Exactly. Different accents, slang, all those cool expressions you wouldn't find in a textbook.
It's like a backstage pass to how people actually use the language.
Totally.
Okay.
Ready for another super simple strategy? It's all about those little moments you have throughout the day.
Okay, shoot. I'm always looking for ways to, squeeze in a little learning here and there.
This one's called the 1-minute speaking trick. Literally anyone can find 1 minute.
1 minute, that's it. I can definitely do that.
Right. But here's the thing. You got to use that minute to actually speak out loud in English.
Okay, so, what would I talk about?
Anything. Describe what you see, what you're doing, even what you're thinking.
So, I'm walking to the kitchen, I'm opening the fridge. I think I want some yogurt. Like that.
Exactly. And the key is to try and think directly in English, not translate in your head.
Oh, right, because that translating thing can really slow you down.
Big time. It's like building a mental muscle for speaking English. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
And it's only 1 minute a day. That's totally doable.
Right. Small steps, big results. Okay, so we've talked about passive immersion with your tech and speaking practice. Now, let's talk about how to sound more natural, like less textbook, more like you actually know what you're doing.
Okay, that's definitely something I struggle with, sounding natural.
The secret weapon. Phrases, not just individual words.
Phrases. Okay, I'm listening.
Think about it. Instead of just saying hungry,
you'd say, I'm starving. I could eat a horse.
Exactly. See how much more expressive that is?
Oh, more fun to say.
Right. And these phrases, they teach you the rhythm of English, those little idioms that native speakers use all the time.
So it's like instead of just memorizing vocabulary, you're learning how to actually use it.
Exactly. It's like learning a dance move instead of just the individual steps.
Okay, I'm getting it. Phrases are the key to sounding smooth.
Now, for a strategy that feels less like study and more like, chilling, let's talk TV.
Wait, you're telling me watching TV can make me fluent?
Not just any TV.
Yeah.
You got to watch it the smart way. We're talking subtitles, strategic rewatching, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, break it down for me. How do I watch TV the smart way?
Start with English subtitles, okay? See how the words match up with what you're hearing.
Right, connect the sounds to the spelling.
Yep. Then, once you feel comfortable, turn those subtitles off and see how much you can understand.
Oh, that's a good challenge. It's like testing yourself, right?
Totally. And if you really want to level up, rewatch those tricky scenes and try to catch all those little details you missed the first time.
And what kind of shows are we talking here?
Well, the podcast recommends sitcoms like Friends, The Office, even Modern Family.
Oh, I've heard those are great for learning English.
They are. Everyday language, funny situations, you can't go wrong.
Plus, it's way more fun than listening to those boring language tapes.
Totally. And speaking of fun, this next tip is all about making English a part of something you already love. Think about your passions, your hobbies.
Okay, let me think. I love music, video games, and reading about history.
Perfect. So listen to English music and look up those lyrics. Play video games with English-speaking players or switch those game settings to English. And for history, dive into some English books or articles about the periods that fascinate you.
Whoa, it's like I'm already doing those things. I just need to switch them to English.
Exactly. And when you're learning about something you're actually interested in, it just clicks.
It's like the learning just happens naturally without even trying.
Totally. Now, let's talk about a habit that a lot of language learners struggle with. It's called mental translation, and it can really hold you back.
Mental translation, what's that?
It's that thing where you're constantly translating everything in your head from your native language to English and back again.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. It's like my brain is on overdrive.
I know, right? It's exhausting. And it makes speaking English feel slow and clunky.
Because you're like always one step behind, right?
Exactly. But here's the good news. You can train your brain to think directly in English.
Wait, really? How do I do that?
Start small. Instead of thinking, I need to go to the grocery store to buy food, think, I need food, I go to the store. Simple, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But it feels weird at first.
It does. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It's like building a new pathway in your brain.
So it's like teaching my brain to think in English mode instead of translate mode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The podcast also suggests labeling things around your house in English, like table, chair, window.
Oh, and like narrating your actions in English, even if it feels silly.
Exactly. It's all about creating that English environment in your mind.
So it's not just about what's around you, it's about what's going on inside your head, too.
Totally. Now, are these strategies really lazy? Or is this like a different kind of effort?
That's a good question. I think it's less about being lazy and more about working smarter.
Yeah, like tapping into how our brains actually learn best, right?
Exactly. We're taking advantage of those natural learning processes that are already happening.
It's like tricking our brains into becoming fluent without all the stress and struggle.
I like that. It's like a sneaky shortcut to fluency.
But even with these effortless strategies, we still got to be consistent, right?
Oh, absolutely. Consistency is key, even with small actions.
Like watering a plant every day, even if it's just a little bit.
Exactly. Those little drops of effort add up over time and help your English blossom.
So even with these lazy strategies, we got to be mindful and make a conscious effort to actually use them.
I'm definitely up for the challenge. It's way more appealing than those boring textbooks.
I hear you. Okay, ready to explore even more lazy language learning secrets?
Bring it on. I'm hooked.
Awesome. We'll be right back after a quick break to dive even deeper.
Can't wait. You know what's really cool about all this? It's like we're using our brain's natural learning power, you know?
It's like we're tricking our brains into fluency, sneaking it in there.
Right. We think of learning like all serious and structured, but our brains are learning all the time, even when we don't realize it.
So true. It's like we're tapping into that hidden potential.
Exactly. And these lazy strategies, they just make the whole process more enjoyable. You know, it's sustainable. You can actually keep it up.
Speaking of keeping it up, the podcast episode didn't really talk about this, but I think it's super important. Consistency.
Oh, yeah. Consistency. That's huge.
Even with these lazy strategies, you got to do them regularly, right?
Totally. Think of it like compound interest.
Okay, I like that. Explain.
Yes. So each little bit of English you expose yourself to, like a song, a show, even just talking for a minute, it's like a tiny deposit.
And over time, those deposits build up.
Exactly. You get those big fluency gains without even realizing it.
So like a little bit every day is better than a whole bunch once a week.
Way better. It's like you're building a muscle, you know? The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
That makes sense. So for everyone listening, you know, who's feeling inspired by all these lazy strategies, what's like the most important thing to keep in mind?
Honestly, I think it's finding the strategies that really work for you, you know, that fit your life and what you enjoy.
It's got to be personalized.
Totally. If you're a music lover, go all in on English music. If you're super social, find ways to connect with English speakers.
You got to feel good, not like another chore on your list.
Exactly. When it feels fun, that's when the magic happens. You're not even forcing it, you're just enjoying it.
Now, the podcast kind of touched on this, but I think it's worth diving a little deeper. The fear of making mistakes.
Oh, tell me about it. That's like the biggest hurdle for so many language learners.
It's like this invisible wall holding you back.
Totally. But here's the thing, making mistakes, it's actually how we learn, right?
I mean, it's not a bad thing.
It's essential. It's like you try something, you mess up, you figure out what went wrong, and you try again.
It's a feedback loop.
Exactly. Think of a baby learning to walk. They fall down a million times, but they keep getting back up.
And eventually, they're running marathons.
Right. So for anyone out there feeling self-conscious about speaking English, just embrace those mistakes.
See them as like stepping stones.
Exactly. Everyone who speaks a second language has been there. It's part of the process.
So true. The more you practice, the less scary those mistakes become.
And speaking of things we might overlook, the podcast didn't talk much about this either, cultural understanding.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
It's like you can know all the words, all the grammar, but if you don't understand the culture, you're missing a piece of the puzzle.
It's like the difference between speaking the language and really connecting with people.
Totally. It's about understanding those little nuances, the humor, the customs.
It's like you can watch those TV shows and movies, the ones we talked about before.
Oh, yeah. Those are gold mines for cultural insights.
You pick up on slang, idioms, things you wouldn't find in a textbook.
Exactly. It's like you're immersing yourself in the culture, not just the language.
So for those who want to go deeper, beyond just speaking the words, what can they do?
Well, watching those shows is a great start, but I think it's also about interacting with English speakers.
Like putting yourself out there, even if it's a little scary.
Great. Join online communities, go to language exchange events, even just chat with English-speaking friends or colleagues.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right, exactly. People are usually happy to share their culture, to help you understand.
It's about being curious, open-minded.
Totally. And remember, cultural fluency, it's a journey, not a destination. You're always learning, always growing.
Now, building on this whole idea of personalization, the podcast kind of hinted at this, finding your own lazy path.
Yeah, I love that idea. It's like taking the framework and making it your own.
It's your language learning adventure.
Exactly. Experiment, try different things, figure out what clicks for you.
There's no right or wrong way.
Right, exactly. Your lazy path might change over time, too, as you learn and grow.
It's a journey of discovery. Speaking of which, let's talk about setting goals, tracking progress, those things that help you stay on track.
Oh, yeah, those are important. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of starting and forget about those practical things.
Like setting off on a road trip without a map. You might get there eventually, but it'll be a lot more confusing.
Exactly. Goals give you that direction, that sense of purpose.
So for those who are just starting out, what advice do you have for setting those goals?
Be specific. Don't just say, I want to be fluent. What does fluency actually look like for you?
You got to define it.
Right. Can you hold a conversation for 10 minutes? Understand a movie without subtitles? Those are things you can actually measure.
And make sure they're realistic, right? Like something you can actually achieve with your lifestyle.
Totally. Start small, build momentum. Don't overwhelm yourself.
Break those big goals down into smaller steps. Mini victories.
Exactly. It's like giving yourself little rewards along the way.
Now, what about tracking progress? How do we actually see how far we've come?
Oh, that's so important for motivation. It's like you're keeping a journal of your language learning journey.
You can see those wins, those challenges.
Exactly. You can use apps, notebooks, even just record yourself speaking and listen back later.
Find what works for you.
Right. And don't compare yourself to others. It's your journey, your progress.
Celebrate every step, no matter how small. Now, shifting gears a bit, we got to talk about the emotional side of language learning. It's not always easy, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a roller coaster for sure. Highs and lows, excitement and frustration.
It's like you're surfing. You're going to wipe out sometimes, but then you catch that perfect wave.
Love that analogy. And the more you practice, the better you get at riding those waves.
So for those feeling discouraged, what advice do you have?
First of all, be kind to yourself. Learning a language is hard.
Give yourself permission to have those off days.
Exactly. Those feelings, they're temporary. They don't mean you're not good at this.
It's normal to feel frustrated sometimes.
Totally. And often those setbacks can be valuable lessons. They help you figure out what to work on.
So it's like those motivational posters, fall down 7 times, get up 8.
Exactly. Resilience is key. Don't give up on yourself.
And language learning, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Oh, definitely. Embrace that long game. Fluency is a journey, not a destination.
It's about enjoying the ride.
Exactly. And there will be plateaus, setbacks. It's normal. Just keep your eye on the prize.
Remember why you started. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve with English?
Connect back to that passion.
Right. It's a gift you give yourself, this whole language learning journey.
I love that way of thinking about it. It's not a chore, it's a gift.
It opens up so many possibilities,
Yeah.
new connections, new experiences.
And it's about growing as a person, expanding your world. Now, one last thing I think we should touch on. The podcast didn't really talk about this, but I think it's so important. It's not just about the destination. It's about enjoying the journey itself.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Sometimes we get so focused on the end goal, we forget to enjoy the process.
Exactly. It's like taking a road trip and just focusing on getting to the destination as fast as possible.
You miss all the cool sights along the way.
Right. And that's where the lazy approach can be so helpful. It encourages us to slow down,
Savor those little moments.
Exactly. Make language learning a part of your life, not just a task you check off your list.
So for those just starting out, how can they embrace that journey mindset?
Be curious. Approach it like you're exploring a new world, on all its wonders and surprises.
It's like every new word is a little treasure.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment. Find what works for you, what makes you excited to learn.
It's your adventure.
Exactly. And remember, language learning, it's lifelong. There's always something new to discover, new connections to make.
It's about growth, exploration, always pushing yourself a little further.
Okay, so we've talked about enjoying the journey, celebrating progress, all that good stuff. But as we wrap up this part, I want to leave everyone with a final thought.
Okay, hit us with it.
Remember this, language learning, it's a gift you give yourself. It's about self-discovery, about connecting with the world in a deeper way. So, enjoy the ride. Embrace those lazy strategies, find what works for you, and never stop exploring.
That's awesome. And you know what? I think we have time for one more little nugget of wisdom before we move on to the final part.
Okay, I'm ready. What's the nugget?
Remember, there's no finish line in language learning. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. So be patient with yourself, celebrate every milestone, and keep that curiosity alive.
I love that. It's a journey, not a race.
Wow, it feels like we've cracked the code, like we found the secret formula for effortless fluency.
It's like a cheat sheet for language learning, but like the good kind of cheat sheet.
Totally. We're not talking about skipping steps or taking shortcuts, but about making it, more natural.
Yeah, like less about forcing it and more about letting it happen.
Exactly. Remember at the beginning of this deep dive, our mission was all about exploring the lazy learner's path.
Right. Finding those sneaky strategies that even the busiest people can use to boost their English.
And I think we've uncovered some pretty awesome stuff, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Things I never even thought about before, like changing your phone settings or using social media to learn.
Right. It's like those little tweaks can make a huge difference.
And we talked about mindset too, right? Embracing those mistakes, connecting with the culture. It's not just about memorizing words, it's about the whole experience.
Because fluency isn't just a destination, it's a journey.
Right, exactly. It's about who you become along the way, the connections you make, the way your world expands.
So, for everyone listening who's feeling inspired, ready to start their own lazy learning adventure, what's like one last piece of advice you'd give them?
That's a tough one. I guess I'd say start small, be consistent, and most importantly, have fun.
Fun, yes. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
Exactly. Find what sparks your interest, connect with people who share your passion, and remember, language learning should be a joy.
I love that. It's a gift you give yourself, not a punishment.
Totally. It's about opening up to new possibilities, embracing that journey of becoming fluent in English.
So, as a final recap, let's remember those 6 key strategies we've talked about. Number 1, change your environment.
Turn your tech and entertainment into English tutors.
2, the 1-minute speaking trick. Just 1 minute a day can make a difference.
Little actions, big results.
3, learn phrases, not just words.
It's like a secret code to sounding more natural.
4, watch TV the smart way.
Use those subtitles strategically. Pick shows you actually enjoy.
5, connect English to your passions.
Make learning feel effortless by tying it to things you already love.
And 6, stop the mental translation.
Train your brain to think directly in English.
And remember, these are just starting points, right?
Totally. The real magic happens when you personalize these strategies, figure out what works best for you, experiment, have fun with it.
That's the beauty of the lazy approach. It's all about finding your own unique path to fluency.
And on that note, I think it's time for our final thought-provoking question, the one we leave our listeners with to ponder,
Okay, hit me. What's the question?
What's one small change you can make today to bring more English into your life, even if it's just for a few minutes?
Ooh, I like that. It's a call to action, right?
Exactly. It could be listening to an English song, watching a funny video clip, even just labeling a few things around your house in English.
The important thing is to take that first step. Any step.
Exactly. Small actions build momentum. And remember, this is your journey, your adventure. So make it fun, make it your own, and enjoy every step of the way.
That's a perfect note to end on. Happy learning, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Keep those language adventures going.